Mamie belle, la moustache et la capucha. Sito patamilo, milata katiki punetika. Sito patamilo, milata katiki punetika. Sito patamilo, milata katiki punetika. Sito patamilo, milata katiki takatiki. Sito patamilo, milata katiki punetika. Sito patamilo, milata katiki punetika. Sito patamilo, milata katiki punetika. Mamie belle, la moustache et la capucha.
What's going on? This is your man John Fortune, your host of the Frustrated Fan Sports Show, and today is my sports rundown where I run down the topics on sports that I feel is kind of good and important and what we need to be paying attention to. There's a lot of stuff that's come up this week, so let's start from the beginning. Rest in peace to Bill Walton, who passed away from cancer at 81 years old. I mean, man, cancer is a very ugly thing, and you know, to catch it at 81 years old, that's so late. But Bill Walton is always that guy who is the what if guy. You know, what if injuries hadn't derailed his career? What would he have been? Would he have been one of the greatest centers to ever step on the NBA floor? But because of injuries and things of that such nature, he just wasn't able to become what they wanted him to become, but was a great NBA analyst for a very long time. He covered a lot of those Jordan years and a lot of those 90s to 80s, 90s, 2000 times. So Bill Walton, man, 81 years old, passed away from cancer. Rest in peace. Very good analyst. Next, the WNBA needs to apologize to their players. And the reason why I say that is because this Caitlin Clark thing, the WNBA and their well, it wasn't necessarily the WNBA, the players themselves were always getting on the NBA and the NBA players about them not helping them out. You know, them not helping them get endorsements and things of that such nature. And then all of a sudden, Caitlin Clark shows up, and now all of a sudden, the WNBA is doing everything in the world that they can to get Caitlin Clark out there. And at the same time, Caitlin Clark comes in with so many endorsements and fanfare and all that type of stuff. Yet and still, some of these players that has always been in the WNBA are now looking sideways like, wait a minute, what's happening now? The WNBA, and I said this before and I'll keep saying it again, the WNBA did a horrid job of sitting up there and promoting their players like they should have. Back in the day, I remember the WNBA and Nike and everybody pushed every player that they had. Most people tend to forget, but years ago, Spike Lee was doing the WNBA commercials. This is where we first come in contact with Kyla Pratt, who was the young girl from, for most of y'all who don't look at the shows, I think it was One on One. I think it was the one where Flex Anderson was her dad. But anyway, we get the first glimpse of that. We have young girls, these very young girls, and in the background is the Old Rascals theme music playing. And they're like getting on these NBA players, these WNBA players. Those were some really good commercials. To me, the best one that I liked a whole lot was the Cynthia Cooper, Tina Thompson commercial, where, you know, she's getting on Cynthia Cooper. Kyla Pratt's character is getting on Cynthia Cooper about not passing the ball down to Tina Thompson. So understand this, and even in the women back then had shoes out. They actually had shoes out. To me, the best looking woman's shoe was the Cynthia Cooper shoe, but they all had shoes out. So again, you're talking about the WNBA did all these players a huge disservice. And now all of a sudden with Caitlin Clark coming into the league, now you want to promote the players? Now you want to push them out there? Especially these ones that got the individual accolades and stuff like that. You talking about Tamika Catchings for a long time was on that Indiana team and she was getting no recognition for how good she is. Now all of a sudden it's like, well, why ain't Caitlin Clark shooting more? And it's like, yo, she has to play in the system. So again, the WNBA owes all its players a huge apology, especially those like Deanna Taurasi and, hell, even Maya Moore. Like, they need to apologize to all those players. Aja Wilson, Aja Wilson is the one that needs the biggest apology because she was balling like crazy. And even Angel Reese, to some extent, Angel Reese is owed an apology as well because she came in and she fell in the draft and she should have never fallen in the draft. But again, like I said, the WNBA needs to get better, and all the players of the WNBA needs to now recognize that it was never the NBA's fault. It was never the NBA players' fault. It's always been because of the WNBA. Next, the NBA playoffs has been absolutely incredible. I'm a little upset that Minnesota isn't going further. Anthony Edwards is the truth. The guy is going to be special, and I think he's going to win multiple championships because he has the one thing that your boy LeBron doesn't have, and that's that killer instinct. Now, again, his team is young. He is young. He came up against a guy in Kyrie Irving who already knows what it takes to win the championship. And they pretty much, on that Dallas team, they got a lot of veterans on that team. So they're doing a fantastic job when it comes to sitting up there and, doing what they need to do to actually win the championship. So, again, these playoffs have been great. I just wish that with the New York series, the New York-Boston series, I just wish that the Knicks weren't as injured as they were because that series was building up to be something special. And even now, when you look at the Celtics, I mean, they ran into an Indiana team that may not have Halliburton there in the next game. So, again, man, these playoffs has been great. I mean, this has been some of the best playoff basketball we've seen. We aren't seeing the normal ones. We haven't seen Golden State, the Lakers. We've actually seen an actual different rotation of players this year, and it has been absolutely great. The NBA, the playoffs this year has been fantastic. Next is the TV show Clipped is coming out next week. It's actually it's about. No, I think it's Sunday. It's actually about the downfall of Donald Sterling. In the TV show, they have Ed O'Neill playing Donald Sterling. They have Lawrence Fishburne playing Doc Rivers. So this, to me, is going to be one of those very good series. It's a very good series to probably look at, especially after we found out we're no longer getting Showtime, which was a fantastic series. So we're not getting that anymore. But this Clip series may actually be a very good replacement for the Showtime series, just based on some of the trailers that we've seen and everything like that. So we'll definitely get a glimpse into the background of what happened during that Clippers time, and we're going to see it. It's called Clipped. It's going to be showing on It's going to be showing. It's exclusively on Hulu. So, but they have it that FX is a part of it too. So, I think that's Fox's way of, not running into that playmaker situation again. But it's going to be shown exclusively on Hulu. So, keep an eye out on that. Next, the UFL playoffs is all set. The San Antonio Brahmas will go against the St. Louis Battlehawks on the XFL side. And on the USFL side, it will be the Birmingham Stallions versus the Michigan Panthers. All these teams have been really good. The San Antonio Brahmas have been a very solid team this year. I think Wade Phillips took over the team, and they're actually very, very solid this year. So we're going to see some really good playoff spring football in the UFL this year, because these teams are very tough teams. And depending on, like, if the Battlehawks make it through, that's going to be, on the XFL side, that's going to be a very good game. Should it be the Battlehawks versus the Stallions? The Stallions have been running over everybody this season. So they have been a very strong team this year. And we're going to see some really good UFL playoffs this year. like I told y'all last week, the defenders didn't make it. So now at this point, this last game that's coming up, it's all about players doing everything they can to impress NFL scouts so they can make an NFL roster this upcoming season for the NFL season. So we'll definitely see what happens there. But the UFL playoffs are all set, and I just let y'all know. Next, OTAs is going on, and as always, like I said, there's nothing to see. It's practice school. I keep telling everybody that, and everybody thinks something else. It's practice school. Guys are coming in, they're coming in to basically, let people know how much they've learned in the offense or the defense. You got to understand, a lot of these guys have already played in Joe Witt's system. So for them, the transition isn't going to be as difficult for some of the newer guys. And then when you think about some of the guys that was already here, their transitions may not be as bad either, because for people like Jonathan Allen and Daron Payne, they've run this style of a system at Alabama. Nick Saban ran the exact same, ran an identical style as Joe Witt. So Jonathan Allen and Daron Payne's transition into this system may not be as bad as people think. And even with that, you're talking about even when it comes to some of these guys, they're coming in, they haven't probably been working out. They're all walking around at their normal weight compared to their playing weight. That's one thing that most people don't understand. When it comes to playing NFL football or playing football as a whole, sometimes what happens is that you get guys who gain weight in the summer or gain weight in the off season because that's just what they do. They gain weight because that's their normal playing weight. And then when the OTAs happen, springtime happen, they drop the weight. Sometimes you get guys that come that their playing weight is bigger, but their walking around weight is smaller. So the talk about Emmanuel Forbes and stuff like that, don't be concerned with that right now, because at the end of the day, when he starts really lifting the weights and everything like that, he's going to bulk up. Most times guys do come in a lot smaller, especially when you talk about their walk around weight. And some guys come in a lot bigger when you talk about their walk around weight. So at this current time, there's nothing to see here. Like I say it all the time, it's practice school. That's all it is. They have to see how much these guys actually know, how many of the concepts they understand, things like that. It's nothing really going on that's really important. Now, again, if you're looking at OTAs and you're focused on OTAs, the only thing you have to pay attention to is injuries. If an injury happens, then all of a sudden that's when it's important to what OTA is going on. But other than that, there's nothing to see. We won't see anything until they start bumping other teams. So according to Dan Quinn, they will be bumping against the Miami Dolphins. So we'll see what happens. That particular practice will actually show how tough our team is against another team, because sometimes in those type of things, tempers can flare and there'll be problems. So again, like I said, OTAs, nothing to see here, no injuries. That's what we're looking for. So again, it's going on, but it's nothing to see. It's so crazy. The next story is so crazy because Washington, we were hoping that these scandals would go away once the ownership had changed, especially ones of this nature. But it seems like here we are now, McManus, our kicker, has this major sexual assault scandal going on, and it's like, oh my goodness. And it's so crazy because we've never heard anything about him before this particular situation. So it's kind of crazy that we're sitting here now and here we are dealing with a situation where we have a kicker who's in a heap of trouble for something like this. And it's like, why? I mean, we as a fan base, we as a franchise wasn't ready for this. I mean, this is something we weren't ready for. And to sit up there and deal with this, it's almost like it makes you feel like the environment it's something about the air that make these guys do something like this. But again, we don't know. Allegedly, it's something going on about a team chartered flight and everything like that. But we don't know. We don't know. But it just looks bad. It just looks bad. So we'll see how this pans out. We'll see what happens. We'll see what goes on. But man, we just can't avoid the scandal to save our lives. It's so funny. I mean, hell, it's almost like we get reported on in the sports pages just as much as we do get reported on in the tabloids. So, man, we have a lot of stuff going on. But hopefully everything works out because we needed a kicker. And hopefully we don't have to go find another one. And that we know how that worked out when we had to go find kickers. The next story is the thing that I've been talking about for the longest, and why I told people don't focus on this one element or these elements, because everybody that was talking about it, they were talking about it's gonna ruin college athletics. It's gonna ruin college this. The NIL is bad. The transfer portal is bad. This is what is bad. The Power 5 conferences are now gearing up and now have been approved by the NCAA to pay their players. This is what is going to hurt college athletics. And understand this, there's a lot of reporters in this area who sat up here and talked about the NIL is going to ruin college athletics. It's the NIL. The NIL is wrong. It's their fault. The transfer portal is awful. This is what is awful. You know why it's awful? Because now you're talking about the fact that several things are going to happen. The NIL is going to go away. And guess what's going to happen along with that? Because they're going to say, we're paying y'all, so there's no reason to give you NIL money because we're paying y'all. So these guys who are these backup guys that were using the transfer portal to go to other schools, they're going to try to find a way to eliminate that. The reason Nick Saban and all them quit was because of the fact that they couldn't stash players anymore. All these reporters who complained about the NIL, y'all need to complain about this, because this is not only going to hurt college athletics, it's going to hurt college athletics for a very long time. Because you're now talking about they're going to have to be forced to eliminate sports. And all of these reporters who got kids that play lacrosse, who play softball, who play golf, who got all these crazy rugby. A lot of this stuff is about to go to the wayside because they're not going to be able to afford this stuff. Where everybody was complaining about the NIL, nobody sat up there and thought about what the darker side of not having the NIL would be. And this is it. Because understand that as it goes along, these Power 5 conferences are going to murder some of these other conferences that are already dying off. We just lost the Pac-12 after the Pac-12 had a phenomenal season last year. We just lost the Pac-12. So now you're talking about slowly but steadily, a lot of these other conferences are going to go away. HBCU schools are going to struggle. All these the MEAC schools, these former AAC schools, they're all the CIA schools. All these schools are going to have problems because these Power 5 conferences have only there, and that's the sad part about it. The NCAA only approved the Power 5 conference schools. And there's so many schools that are not in the Power 5 conferences. So guess what? Again, a lot of these athletics at these non-Power 5 conference schools are going to go away. Goodbye softball, women's softball. Goodbye hockey. Because understand this, even when it comes to hockey, we may see like Michigan, Wisconsin, Boston University, and what's the other school? Oh my goodness, it's another school, Minnesota. We see them in the Frozen Four all the time. But guess what? Goodbye goodbye. I mean, the only things that might stick around is maybe track and field. Lacrosse, goodbye. Have a good one. Golf, goodbye. Have a good one. You know, because again, there's going to be no benefit for them to keep these particular sports around. And guess what? When it comes to the Power 5 conferences, there are but so many spots that they can have on their roster and so many kids that they can have even in the school. So understand, for everybody who was whining, crying, complaining about the NIL, here's your solution. And hopefully when you go down there and you have to talk to your children and talk about how you complained about the NIL and how their solution was for the NCAA to approve only the Power 5 schools to pay their students, you're going to have to explain to your children how you sat up there and how you sat up there and basically complained about the NIL, and that the solution that they came up with was for his athletics to be eliminated from the school because he didn't play for a Power 5 school. I tell y'all. Next and last but not least is the segment that I love the most, and that segment is It's All Cap. It's All Cap. I talked about this some time ago. I talked about this a while ago, and it just seems like people are just now catching up. And there's some things that I just have to sit up here and say. One thing I will say is that sometimes I dislike former athletes. And the reason why is because sometimes they're extremely honest when they don't know the players. And then they're less honest when they have some familiarity with the players. Bronny James has been talked about this because of how he performed at the NBA Combine. And people's like, oh, he's been looking good, he's been looking great, and all this type of stuff. And it's like, is that really what we're doing? And a lot of former athletes are sitting up there, and I get it. I get their stance because they know LeBron James. They know Bronny James. And they don't want to jack up his confidence as he's going into the NBA. But you're not going to tell me that Bronny James did good at the NBA Combine in a draft that we feel is a down draft this year. A draft that where most of the guaranteed first round picks don't show up at the Combine. So you're talking about Bronny James performed well against what would be considered the worst of the worst. So I'm over this whole thing. Like, nobody's going to have me believe that Bronny James is sitting up here and he's done fantastic at this NBA Combine when he's not even seeing the top players. And not only that, he's coming into a draft where all the players in this draft are down this year. Like, everybody is down this year. Like, the NBA has done so much to basically water down the NBA product so much that now if you look at it, everybody's excited about Anthony Edwards because guess what? For the first time in a long time, we've actually seen aggressive basketball being played to a standpoint, to a level that has excited everybody. We're not seeing the boring Euro stuff as much as we wanted to, as much as the NBA wanted to. Now we're talking about more boring Euro players coming into the league, could possibly be first round picks, and there's no excitement. But here we are. We're talking about Bronny James doing well against the worst of the worst. Like, I mean, that's almost like having an NBA player play against a bunch of children. You know, like, it's not the same thing. You're not going to sit up here and be like, oh my God, he put up 80 points against this high school team. Like, no, that's not the same thing. You know, and to be quite honest, the fact that even people like Rich Paul, which again, that's Bronny James's uncle. That's technically his uncle. You sit up there and he has to, because LeBron James is his best friend, and a lot of his success has been due to, you know, having LeBron James be his best friend. But he has to go out there and basically support his nephew so that his nephew doesn't lose confidence. The problem though is nobody's being honest with him. Nobody's out there telling him, yo, you have to get better at everything. You're 6'2", which means you're undersized, so you have to play the point. You have to play the point. His handle isn't that great. And you're talking about what's going to happen when he goes up against some real legitimate dudes. Some guys that's really going to put up with him. What's going to happen if Bronny James has to face a Anthony Edwards or a Jay Brown? Like when he has to go up against guys like that, when he has to go up against a Zach LaVine or a Michael Porter Jr. Like, what's going to happen when he has to face those type of guys? What's going to happen when he faces like a Steph Curry? Those type of things need to be assessed because, again, you're talking about a guy who's playing against the worst of the worst. He's at the combine and everybody's praising how good he looks at the combine when everybody knows that this is a down draft year. Everybody knows it. I don't care that LeBron. So when it comes down to it, Bronny James doing well at the NBA Combine. It's all cap, man. I mean, look, don't sit up here and pee on my leg and tell me it's raining. Just don't do that, because we're not stupid. We're really not stupid. And to be quite honest, this is one of these things that it's a nothingness. It's a nothingness, and they have to do better with this. The NBA. The former players who don't want to hurt his feelings and things like that, they don't want LeBron to be mad at him. They have to be honest about this. Like, he's just not ready for the NBA, and it would have been nice for him to go back to school. But again, in a down draft year, he could go high with the anticipation and hopes that a team is silly enough to draft him, and then hope and pray that they can bring LeBron James right along with them. So, I tell you, y'all tell me what y'all think. What story intrigued you the most? Do you feel that it's all cap with the Bronny James doing well at the NBA Combine? Y'all tell me what y'all think. Other than that, this has been your man John Fortune, and this has been the Frustrated Fan Sports Show.